Have you ever worked the night shift in a store? It's usually a boring and quiet job, but what if, in the silence, things start happening that can't be explained? The lights suddenly begin to flicker, and footsteps echo from an empty corridor. It all started like any other night. The supermarket worker arrived for his shift, preparing to spend a few hours alone among the shelves and products. He knew there would be no unusual events, just him and the silence. But soon, his perception began to change. The first signs of something strange occur when he notices that the refrigerator in one of the aisles starts making an odd, creaking sound. He approaches and hears what seems like someone opening and closing its door. But in reality, there's no one there. It seems absurd, yet his eyes can't believe what they're seeing. To calm himself, he decides to check the security cameras, but strange movements appear on the screen. Shadows in the store begin to move along their own paths, as if someone is silently watching him. His heart races. Maybe it's just a malfunction with the cameras? He decides that it's all just his exhaustion and goes back to work. But then the second refrigerator starts making strange noises, as if someone reached for its door. He turns, trying to find the source of the sound, and for a moment, he feels his skin break into a cold sweat. At that moment, when he momentarily turns away, the same figure appears on the security camera. A shadow moving down the corridor. This is impossible. He was in a completely different part of the supermarket. But the camera clearly shows a movement he couldn't have missed. Deciding that it's just a coincidence, he continues his work. But soon, he begins to notice even stranger things. Some packages on the shelves have been moved and the shopping carts are quietly swaying, even though no one touched them. His anxiety grows, but he can't understand what's happening. Approaching one of the empty checkouts, he hears something fall off the shelf. He quickly looks around and sees products rolling across the floor, while all the shelves stand completely empty. His instincts tell him it's better not to stay in this spot, but his legs won't move. In that same instant, he hears footsteps, but no one appears. His heart starts pounding in his chest so hard it feels like it's about to burst out. He decides to check the source of the sounds, and when he returns, he suddenly stops. A shadow is moving down the corridor. He feels his blood run cold. He can't believe his eyes. The shadow is getting closer and closer. He can't look away, but his legs, as if glued to the floor, give him no chance to escape. He decides to take the final step, get closer. But the closer he gets, the darker the space becomes. It feels like the light is fading and the air grows heavy and dense. He feels something start to grip his body as if an invisible force is pulling him into this place. At that moment, another movement appears on the camera screen, and suddenly he notices the figure disappearing. This strange disappearance makes his heart beat even faster. He turns around and realizes the store has become completely different. It feels like the doors and windows have shifted and the aisles have turned into a maze. Step by step, he runs through the aisles, feeling everything around him change. But no matter where he goes, he ends up back where he started. He finds himself in the same corridor he was in before, once again facing that same empty gaze, the face without a face. At the moment he realizes that all his attempts to escape are futile, the figure appears beside him. He feels its breath, heavy and cold, as if it were something supernatural. He can't take a step because in that shadow, there is nothing human. And now the final question. What is happening in this store? Why do the shadows begin to move, and where do all the traces disappear to? At this moment, when he realizes that there is no way out, he can only watch as the shadow approaches, ready to consume everything. He decides not to waste any more time and starts looking for a solution. Step by step, he explores the store, like a hunter on his final journey. Every turn becomes a new challenge, and the cold that envelops him freezes his thoughts. Suddenly, he notices a door he hadn't seen before. Could it have always been here? He cautiously approaches, reaches for the handle, and opens the door. Behind it is a dark corridor, dimly lit. The walls are worn, and the air is thick with the smell of age and mold. Nothing seems out of the ordinary, but his intuition screams that he's not alone here. His gaze fixes on every detail. The dust on the floor, remnants of old cans, strange scratches on the walls. He moves forward and suddenly he sees a dark figure at the end of the corridor. It's not a person, but something more. His heart begins to race uncontrollably, and his legs almost refuse to move. He suddenly turns around, but the corridor seems endless. All this time, he was sure he wasn't mistaken, but now he feels lost. Images flash in his mind, and everything seems distorted. From somewhere in the darkness, faint, barely audible footsteps echo. He hears the whisper again, but now it's no longer just sounds. It's speech, words he can't understand. He can't make out who is speaking, but the voice sounds as if it's from another world, from the depths of the night. It feels as though even the walls have come to life and are staring at him. When he decides to continue his path, he suddenly hears a horrific screech. Something emerges from around the corner, and his gaze is captured by a shadow moving with unimaginable speed. He feels his heart tighten in fear. With each step, something invisible grows stronger. There is nowhere left to run. He realizes that before him is not just an ominous shadow, but something far more dangerous. He tries to lock himself in one of the rooms, but when he opens the door, he finds himself back in the same corridor. It's as if this place is playing with him, taking his mind. At that moment, he hears the doors creaking. Something moves away from them, resembling a person, but its figure is too strange and distorted. He stares at its features, and everything becomes even more terrifying. There is no face, only darkness and fog that refuse to release him from their grip. He stands before this creature, unsure of how to act. The fear that overwhelms him paralyzes him. He tries to understand what this is, maybe some sort of test, his hallucinations, or truly something supernatural. But standing still is impossible. His legs won't obey, and he begins moving again. As he takes another step forward, he feels an eerie silence surrounding him. All the light sources suddenly go out, and in the darkness, he senses a presence. This is not just a figure. It's something that wants to capture him. He feels his breath becoming heavy, and the surrounding space narrowing in on him. He decides to run, but all he sees in front of him is emptiness. The store has completely changed. It's as if he's entered another dimension where time and space have lost their power. The shadows continue to chase him, and the corridors become increasingly twisted. Fear reaches its peak, but he continues searching for a way out. A thought flashes through his mind. Maybe someone else has been here before. Perhaps he isn't the first to fall into this trap, and those who came before him are now trapped here forever. It's impossible to understand, but he can't stop. He decides to check the doors once more, the ones that led him here. And once again, he faces the same face. It is soulless, expressionless, and it moves toward him. His eyes can't see, but he feels the presence of this creature drawing near, ready to consume everything. In that very moment, his thoughts break free. He decides that no shadow will stand between him and his life. He's ready to run, without stopping, to finally break free from this terrifying labyrinth. You probably thought he managed to escape from this world? Want to know how his story ends? Subscribe to the channel, like, and leave your comments. Your opinion matters a lot to us. Don't miss the next video. It will be scary, but fascinating.